Already time again for yet another Murdoch Music Minute. Today's album review contains a little bit of American history, loads of cover versions, and peril for Gotham City. Here come Paul Revere and the Raiders. I've recently ranked my favorite 20 garage rock tracks, and I thought I'd like to stay in this mid-60s mood a little bit longer. So why not pick out some album from this period, an album and an artist I'm not too familiar with, Paul Revere and the Raiders. Yes, it's more or less a first time listening I had with this album, or I have it longer in my collection already, just in digital format. For all you vinyl lovers or fans from the 60s, sorry, just MP3 format, but I have got the album, and it's been a very, very long time since I've really consciously or with a certain amount of concentration really listened to it. So this was fun revisiting. Couldn't remember too much about this album, and since I'm not really familiar with Paul Revere and the Raiders, today's clip show about the band and the history up until the release of today's album probably will be very, very short. And I guess some of you Paul Revere and the Raiders fans, if you're watching this, can add a lot of detail and missing information down in the comments. Feel free to engage with me and others. So Paul Revere and the Raiders, we are talking about the period of 1965-1966 today. The USA were in the firm grip of the British invasion bands. First of all, of course, the Beatles, but also the Rolling Stones were gaining attention and popularity. And there were hardly any American acts to seriously rival those bands, hence British invasion, because the American charts really were flooded with Mersey Beat and other English bands. Along came Paul Revere and the Raiders. At that time, arguably the only seriously threatening act for the Beatles or the Stones, or the only American act that could frequently touch them in terms of chart success, were the Beach Boys. Paul Revere and the Raiders were not manufactured, but were produced in order to... nothing like a good sip of coffee during an album review. Sorry. The plan was to install this band in order to finally have an answer to all those British invasion beat music groups. Did they succeed? Are they still worthwhile checking out nowadays? Stay with me and we'll talk about one of their albums after a short band biography. This band was founded back in the late 50s. Paul Revere was a pianist and organ player from Idaho. He was trained as a barber. I wonder if he did the haircuts for his bandmates. The Raiders, originally called the Downbeats, began as an instrumental group, but in order to gain more teen appeal, soon changed to vocals and a pop repertoire. With a feeling for entertainment and comedy, Paul Revere had the idea to have the band dress in American Revolutionary War attire. After a first minor hit, Like Long Hair, in 1961, the band's career really took off around 1965-66 under famous producer Terry Melcher. Before, the group had already released 3 albums of instrumentals and rock and roll, surf and beat cover versions. Combined with regular appearances for a teen audience on Dick Clark's television show Where the Action Is, the band gained nationwide attraction from late '65 onwards. Subsequently, the single Just Like Me reached number 11 in the Billboard Hot 100. Their following 4th album, Just Like Us, was meant to fully put them into the limelight in order to represent an American answer to the extremely successful British pop and rock bands dominating the US charts. Just Like Me had become their biggest hit, and quickly a full album followed called Just Like Us. The design of the cover is very much 1960s standard album covers. Soul records, pop records, well, even some jazz records followed this rule. Actually, you have a shot of the band and lots of writings, a bit of a hype, an ad for the hits contained on this album, and then the other tracks also listed already on the front cover. This is something that has gone out very much out of fashion from the late 60s onwards, when albums became more serious affairs, more carefully constructed pieces of art, and also the cover artwork was very much elevated, I think, and became much more important than during the 50s and until the mid-60s. So this is a very nice, classic, typical 60s pop album cover. We have the band in full American Revolution attire, which I think is a bit of a fun little fact, because Paul Revere himself refused to join the military. He refused the draft. I don't know how actually he managed it, but he officially refused being drafted on grounds of, I don't know, maybe religion or some other arguments regarding freedom of the individual. And then here he was in this band that became famous for their dressing up as revolutionaries, actually American revolutionaries, fighting the British Army, and then founding the United States, the army of which he actively shunned. Revere was the undisputed head and mastermind and leader of the band, even though he was only the organist and keyboard player. The singers always were different people in the band, but he was very much the guy who, of course, next to the producers and the label, decided what material they would play. He came up with the whole costume idea, and he was also the one who was very interested in making the band interesting for a teenage audience, and also who always wanted to keep Paul Revere and the Raiders in a bit of a comedy style. Even on this album, there are a few tracks that are not only lighthearted, but really are sort of novelty tunes, or have a certain comedian touch to them. So let's get into the 12 tracks on Just Like Us by Paul Revere and the Raiders, released very, very early in 1966. The A-side of the album starts with Steppin' Out, one of the few originals to be found on Just Like Us. It's a bit of a shame. I mean, the album, after all, is called Just Like Us, but then you get mostly songs by other people. Nonetheless, that was nothing special in the 60s. A lot of bands still very much were covering tracks by their peers or old blues tracks. So Paul Revere and the Raiders simply followed the successful formula of the day. But Stepping Out, to come back to it finally, indeed was an original written by Mark Lindsay, the main vocalist and saxophone player of the band at that point, and Paul Revere. It is a very stomping, typical mid-60s garage rock track, one of the most rocking tracks on this album, and I find it very enjoyable. It's actually a great start to this album. Makes you expect maybe an edgier garage rock album. This is not really the case with some of the material that follows, but still, Stepping Out, especially because it's also an original, really is a nice 60s beat garage rock composition by this band. A bit of nice bluesy guitar licks and the typical 60s garage rock organ in the background, even though there were a lot, harder and more exciting garage rock tracks around in the mid-60s. Just watch my favorite 20 garage rock tracks ranking for that. This is actually a good example of the mid-60s rock sound.
I'll tell the truth, don't lie to me. Have you been stepping on me? I got ways of finding out, and even stepping on me. But do me good and I'll give you a piece of my mind. I told you once, I told you twice. Stop your cutting around, or else I'll put you on ice.
The lyrics also are more or less standard fare. The singer, or the poetic eye, was gone for a while because of Uncle Sam's deal. That's actually an interesting phrase here in the first verse already. So I guess this either is a reference to being drafted and being in the military for a while, or being in prison. I'm not 100% sure, but I guess it's an allusion to one of these two things. So he's gone, his good love-making days are over, and he's coming back to his girl, to his town, and of course he worries if she has been stepping out on him. That's a topic in rock and soul lyrics you can find hundreds of times, especially in the 60s, but of course in general in pop music. And here, of course, sung from a more dominant male perspective. Still, a very enjoyable track. After this great start, we get Doggone, which is a soul cover version written by Smokey Robinson and other people. But I think Smokey Robinson is the main writer of this track. Again, a song about a man keeping an eye on his woman and sort of warning her not to be unfaithful, because otherwise he'll be long gone. Has a very nice swagger to it. I guess the soul original is better, but I have to admit I haven't heard it. Yeah, this is another solid track that is nice to hear and catchy, a bit more of a jingle jangle sound on the guitar, and of course again the 60s organ sound in the background.
But if I ever caught you running around, spending my money all over this town, I wouldn't be doggone. I'd be long gone. Well, I wouldn't be doggone. I'd be long gone.
The third song on here is called Out of Sight and sung by the guitarist Drake Levin. This track, I think, or I would say, tries to mimic the soul style, or the soul slowly evolving into funk style of James Brown. Of course, it's tamed down considerably, but yeah, it is a kind of soul rock track. Has a nice groove saxophone and very much manages to create the certain mid-60s soul swagger. In this song, Drake Levin sings about this fantastic woman of his coming to the conclusion that she's too much. Really a more than solid track, and so far we are 3 songs into this album. I came to it with rather low expectations. So far, this is a really neat mid-60s pop rock album.
You got your high heel sneakers on, and you're still new. You got your high heel sneakers on, and you're still new. You're more than alright. You know you're out of sight.
Curiously, the track Out of Sight is counted in German at the beginning. Don't know if there is a deeper meaning to that, or if it's just the band goofing around. Next we get Baby Please Don't Go, famous blues song by Big Joe Williams from the 30s. This has been covered by several bands, especially in the 60s. And here Paul Revere and the Raiders try to be a bit wilder and raunchy. In terms of their other material, I'd say they manage quite well, but this is nothing against the famous garage rock version by the Amboy Dukes, for example, or the version with Van Morrison recorded by his first band, Them. A track called I Know follows. This is also an R&B song. But in their version, Paul Revere and the Raiders just use this for a comedy party track. They're fooling around with ad-libs about the singer being too low or too high, and at one point they even, in the background, you hear somebody saying that their producer Terry Melcher was going to throw them out of the studio if they continued like that. It's really just a harmless, innocent 60s silly fun. This is something the Monkees could have done, maybe also on their television show. A document of its times. I find it quite charming, but it's probably not a track that you will replay very often. And to fill up side A, the band throws in a rendition of the instrumental Night Train. This is more a kind of jazzy rhythm and blues number, going as far back as Duke Ellington. The Paul Revere version is more or less nice filler material, nothing to write home about, but could be perfectly used as library music if you're ever looking for a musical backdrop for your 60s themed barbecue party, or if you are shooting a movie where you need teenagers played by actors who are clearly past the mid-20s, and for a harmless, wholesome and clean party scene. This is actually the material that directly makes me think of Paul Revere and the Raiders a little later, after the success of this album, appearing on the Batman TV show as themselves. But they appeared on the side of the villain in what is not my favorite episode. They play at, I think, an election party for the Penguin. The most hilarious appearance of real musicians in the 60s Batman television series, for me, was the one by the British pop duo, nowadays rather forgotten, Chad and Jeremy, whose voices are stolen by a fiendish device of Catwoman. Hilarious episode. Holy sounds of silence. But now, back to Paul Revere and the Raiders, and off to side 2 of Just Like Us. And now we are getting to Just Like Me, the single, one of the band's biggest hits written for them. A competent, solid garage rock track, but if you're listening closely, to be honest, this is a bit of a rewrite of Louie Louie. Nonetheless, this is another enjoyable, solid garage track. It also features a quite nice guitar solo. Lyrically, the song is about the singer declaring his love. That's just like him, but his better half or the other side is known for leaving him alone all night long. So it's a bit of a day and night relationship, or a kind of one-way relationship. Things don't seem to be all bright and shiny here in this relationship. It's understandable why this was chosen as a single, why it climbed up to number 11 in the Billboard Hot 100 is a little bit beyond me, to be honest, but this is one of the tracks Paul Revere and the Raiders are best remembered for.
It's just like me, I feel so blue, and I fall so much in love with you. It's just like me, it's just like me. I act a fool, that's how I'll be. But it's just like you to say goodbye.
The album continues with the track that caught me by surprise the most, a cover version of Donovan's Catch the Wind. Paul Revere and the Raiders try to translate Donovan's hippie folk song, very tender song, into a folk rock style, just like what the Byrds did to Bob Dylan material. But in all honesty, it sounds a little bit uninspired and played with a certain lack of passion. Still, I was positively surprised to find this track on this kind of teeny bop album, but of course it cannot hold a candle to Donovan's simpler but a lot more passionate original version. What one has to bear in mind is that Donovan's original version had just been released a couple of months before Paul Revere's album came out. And so it is quite remarkable time and time again, if you look at these pop rock albums from the 60s, how very soon certain tracks were covered by other bands and then re-released, sometimes even as singles, which is also the case with the next track on this album, I Can Get No Satisfaction. Of course, originally recorded by the Rolling Stones, it had just currently taken the pop and rock world by storm, and here it was already covered shortly after its original release by Paul Revere and the Raiders. It shows how much of an impression this song made on contemporaries of the Rolling Stones, and it is, in all fairness, a respectable cover, but very tame and clean compared to the Rolling Stones version. It's probably not a rendition that people will remember or reach out for if they want to hear a cover version of Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. And the same holds true for the next selection on this album, I'm Crying, originally a very early single by The Animals, a very energetic R&B beat track. And again, Paul Revere and the Raiders do their best, but cannot reach the passion and the energy of the original recorded by The Animals. The most prominent feature on this track is the organ sound by Paul Revere and the Raiders. I hope the cat in the background is not going to puke very soon, because Yes, usually when she's eating her grass, that's a sign that she needs to sort of clean her stomach. You want to disturb my album review? She's really good at crashing videos sometimes. And then we get back into harmless 1960s party mode with a rendition of the song New Orleans. This was originally performed by Gary U.S. Bonds. Was quite a hit in the very early 60s, both in the USA and the UK. A kind of R&B tinged surf rock and roll track. Very fluffy material, to be honest. Quite fun, but not very memorable, or nothing that is very noteworthy, to be honest. And yeah, reeks a little bit of filler to simply fill the album with standard material. The final song is called Action, a very short Beach Boysy rock and roll track. Nice little tune, but also, objectively speaking, rather filler material. I guess this was written, maybe even specifically written for the Where the Action Is television show. And as such, it's a bit of an odd choice to end the album with, because it's more kind of, hey, let's go where the action is starter song. But personally, I quite like this track, even though it's nothing special. Probably rather just, again, more fluffy filler. So overall, that shows the typical structure of 60s pop records. You throw on 2 singles, usually front load the album, so the stronger material is on side A, and then you come up with more or less interesting filler material for side B. This is certainly the case on Just Like Us by Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh, baby, come on. Let me take you where the action is. Come on. Let me take you where the action is. Come on. Let me take you where the action is. It's so neat to meet you, baby, where the action is.
That notwithstanding, the album was very successful. Back in 1966, it reached number 5 in the USA. So that again underlines how popular Paul Revere and the Raiders were at that point in time. As an album, it's an okay, average 60s pop rock album. It's nothing essential. It's, of course, not an album that you can compare to the big classics of the era, but as such, it probably stands more for the kind of teenage-oriented material that was around in the mid-60s than those critically acclaimed records everybody is talking about. I mean, compare this to Pet Sounds, which also came out in 1966. Pet Sounds is a critically acclaimed album. It still is regarded as one of the most important pop albums to come out of the 1960s. But I guess if I had been a teenager in 65, 66, I probably would have gotten more a kick out of Paul Revere and the Raiders, Just Like Us, than the more pastoral and rather introvert Pet Sounds. This doesn't make it a good album at the end of the day, but if you are interested in 60s pop culture, this is a very fine example of what was around and what young people would be listening to, apart from, the big classics that we are still talking about today. This album and the following one or two albums after Just Like Us mark Paul Revere and the Raiders' pinnacle of popularity. The group lineup then changed shortly after this, around 67. There was a complete change in the lineup. Some of the members were frustrated, wanted to become more serious artists or follow a harder rock trend, left the band. Paul Revere reformed the band with a new lineup. Paul Revere and the Raiders had another really massive hit with Indian Reservation in the early 70s, which was quite a different style from this one. Then briefly, Paul Revere split up the group entirely and declared his musical career as finished, only to return 2 years later in the late 70s with yet another version of Paul Revere and the Raiders. He passed away in 2014. And this group is one that is mentioned again and again when it comes to 60s bubblegum pop. I think the band still has a certain status or a certain relevance for 60s pop culture in the USA. Outside of the USA, they are hardly relevant. But as mentioned, for fans of 60s pop music, of 60s garage rock, this is, again, not essential listening, but a nice kind of additional band to check out, to get the full picture of what teenage pop was like in the 1960s. That's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed this little ride back into the mid-60s. I'm sure I will revisit more music from the 60s soon on this channel. Until then, stay tuned for more Murdoch Music Minutes.